Hello, welcome back to what is likely to be the last training game that I post prior to the commencement of the Canberra Chess Club Championship, which is where all of this has been leading. So let's try and put together some of the things we've been learning through the experience of these training games. Let's try and utilize the visualization skills that we've been developing and the pattern recognition we've been developing through the tactics training and see if we can take down this pretty strong opponent. Part of what I want to do is play solid moves relatively quickly when I can, so I don't get into such ridiculous time pressure. This is looking like a mainline Najdorf Sicilian or something relatively similar. But what I'm actually going to play is this move, which I don't necessarily think is main line, but it allows me to castle, and I don't think it's going to be that bad. After castles, f4 might be an idea, possibly preceded by a bishop g5. And we'll go from there, but what we really need to do is be focused. And rather than commentating about what we need to be doing, I'm going to now start to commentate just about the position itself. So, castles here is something I'm going to play immediately because there's no tactical threat that I have to be aware of right now. We're just all simply developing. Now I can consider this f4 move. He's going to castle, almost certainly. Okay, and in that scenario, if I wanted to follow up, the question is, how do I follow up? f4 castles. King h1 I think is also a very normal move in such positions. Positions meaning these Najdorf-like positions where when you play f4 and this diagonal opens, you can land a queen here maybe one day, and it's just a good idea maybe to play king h1. So actually, I'm thinking I might even play that now. I could consider this move and then follow with, in fact, that's what I will do, because I know this is sometimes part of the main line in the Najdorf. It's a developing move for the bishop. And I keep options open of this. We've got options. And we played it relatively quickly. So if castle's queen d2, we would have, I guess, this would be the idea, to see if we can trade off the dark squared bishops. This is all defended. Maybe we can even play f3 if we want to over-defend things. But regardless, I think this is a nice move. Even here, it might be good to allow queen takes b2, and then simply bringing this rook across. Almost traps the queen, not quite, but almost. Another thing he's doing is he's putting a bit more pressure on this knight. So if I play something like this, he might be able to play this move, and he'll all of a sudden have two attackers on the knight, as well as, an attacker on this fella. So I do need to be very, very aware of that, and maybe I need to attack the queen straight away for that reason. That also defends the pawn, hits the queen, says to the queen, you can't stay here, you can't take this yet, because if you do, I'm taking here. So the queen can't come here either, or here, or here. If it comes here or here, then, specifically here where it still pressures the knight, then I can even play moves like this or like this to get that queen further away. And if it comes here, then I think this move also both protects this knight and this knight. But this pawn would also lose its guard. So after a move like this, I just really have to be top level careful. I have to be very careful here, in fact. Maybe what I can do is actually move this knight out the way. That might be the more sensible approach. Maybe this could even be a move, attacking the queen, but again he takes. Maybe I could do it this way. He takes and I come here attacking the queen, but the queen comes here with a capture. Ooh, but then, no, it doesn't quite work. Taking the bishop because he captures back with the queen. So it's good. We're looking at some variations. Take, take. Come here, queen takes. Yes, we can take queen. He takes queen, and we get the check with the fork. But is that actually good? After an equal trade, I come here. He takes a full knight. Then we trade queens, and all I win here is an exchange. So I'm not sure that it is good. It actually loses a little bit of material for me. And if we continue on, it's his move there. He can even take a pawn. So no, I don't like that. I don't like that, but moving this could well make sense. Question is, where do we want to move it? And I think this makes a lot of sense. So this could also make some good sense, but now without further ado, I'm going to play this move. This actually still is not properly defended, because if he takes and I take back, he still wins this pawn, although I attack the bishop and the bishop has to move, which may allow some discoveries against the queen. It's not ideal. So I think if he takes here, my best move there may be, in fact, to attack the queen immediately. I wonder if what I should have done on the previous move, you know what, it doesn't matter anymore, but maybe I should have started with capture and then only after he takes, then I come here. I think that probably would have been better, but in any case, he's castled, and that gives me opportunities. So now I can consider this move, which attacks both of these, and I think that will give me an advantage because I'm going to win his important dark squared bishop. So take, he comes here, I come here, hitting the queen. When the queen moves, I can take this, and he's going to have a weak pawn. So without further ado, I'm going to do this. And this. So I think we kind of got let off the hook there. And how did we even get into this trouble in the first place? Because it didn't seem there was any tactical issues, no tactical trouble in sight. It probably really isn't an issue. But it might be. It might be that I just didn't really think about this move. But again, I think that had I just taken, he takes back, then I come here. If he gives up the bishop, yes, I ruin my pawn structure, but he gives away his important bishop. So maybe he would have been a little bit better there, but it wasn't a travesty. In any case, I think in this position, we're probably doing just fine. One of the main lessons I've learned recently is that the game is long. That means you need to be patient, but it also means you need to persevere. So let's keep thinking and not get tired. You need stamina. Where's the queen going? Not here, not here, not here, not here. There is not here, here, or here, or here. There's only one square for the queen left. Two squares. This one and this one. This square does not look good because then we actually jump here and win a rook, winning a full exchange. We might even still prefer to take the bishop actually and then take the pawn. I think I would actually prefer that if his queen went here. So that's why he has to bring his queen there. That's right. Now I can take the bishop. I don't think there's probably anything better. I'm going to leave him with this weak pawn and we're going to try and utilize this square. We're going to try and maximize use of this square. And with that in mind, I'm going to play this move. Supported by the bishop. It'd be nice if we could get our knight around here, but it's going to take 4 moves to do it, to get to a square diagonally to a cross. What 4 moves are they? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can get a knight there. His knight can always counteract the knight at some point. Like say, for instance, 1, 1. How did I do this? Sorry, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, and his knight is ready that if I ever jump in, he's going to capture. But at that point, my queen can recapture. He can use his bishop then, which is a bit of an annoyance. So we'll see what we do. Maybe we actually here take the chance to capture. He captures, and then we put our bishop on this nice diagonal with a tempo. That's a possibility. It's not the only possibility. Maybe we actually could just put a queen here immediately. If this is played, we've got this move, attacking a rook. And you'd have to move the knight out of the way. In fact, specifically here. in order to save the rook. Then our queen is looking slightly endangered, and so that's something to be very mindful of. We could also consider just a move like this. His dark squares are very weak. We don't have a dark squared bishop, unfortunately, but we could nevertheless seek to get a piece and a queen over here. That could be a worthy goal. If he takes here, how am I going to recapture? Would I want to do it like this? Opening up the rook, but weakening my pawn structure, not necessarily. Maybe I play even a move like this. And if he takes, I take back. Or a move like this could make sense. Like I say, if he takes, I take back. It does sort of weaken this pawn, but I can reinforce that pawn in future. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I think there is also this. If he takes, I take back. And if he doesn't take, I can always play this in the future as well. Of course, I could take, but that seems to help him develop. After he develops, though, like I say, there is this move with tempo. How does he defend this pawn? Maybe he just develops his knight. Take would probably benefit him. So this, he develops the knight. Not the best square for the knight, though. Maybe I could even at that point start this little dance, this little routine. Although with his bishop there, I don't like it. Maybe I'll start this routine right now. If he takes, I take back, and then I do this. So this might work. If this is played, it's just a free pawn. And if this takes and I come here, I like that. I think that's sensible. It's the first move in this kind of maneuver. It defends the pawn. It also enables, if he takes, I take back, and the maneuver is still on via a different route. So I think that's a sensible first move. He takes, so I'll take back like this. And my knight's getting closer to this goal. Interestingly. Also putting pressure immediately on this pawn. And that's very interesting because I'm not sure there's a way for him to actually defend the pawn. Now, the reason I wanted the knight here is because in general principles, firstly, this is a weak square. He's got no pawn here or here that can ever advance to a square where it will take control of this square. And therefore, not only that, but it also is in front of one of his isolated pawns. And in general, if you can occupy a square that's in front of an isolated pawn, particularly if that is, a weak square, then that's strategically strong in general. So that's what I was aiming at. And then in the long term, what you're trying to do is ultimately win the weak pawn behind it, or use this square to control other areas of the board, have threats of checks or threats of forks. So that's the general idea. So right now we can win, apparently. We can apparently win this pawn, but no, he's going to bring the rook across, and all of a sudden this knight's going to be pinned. But we jump here, and if he takes queen, we also take queen with check. He moves here, then we take another pawn with check, and ultimately recapture the rook too. So I actually think we can take this, then come here. Only issue is, if he just takes the knight, then what do we do? So that's the issue. So maybe what we actually have to do is after this and this, we come here. I think that is the move. Take, he comes here, take, hitting the queen. If queen takes bishop, we take queen. I think this is good. I'm going to trust my instincts on this one. Not just my instincts, I should say, but also the calculation apparently works. The calculation apparently works. If this, we take the bishop. If he takes the queen, we also take a queen. Keep in mind, we've taken a bishop and a pawn with a check. And wherever he goes with the king, whether it's here, we take a pawn. Whether it's here, we take the same pawn. And we're going to see this in play. Or if he had steps here, we can even give the check here just to ruin the pawn structure before we regather the rook. And we're going to end up in a good position. Now, we're not ahead on the clock, to be fair, but we've got plenty of time, considering we only started with 15 minutes. We're 17 moves through. We have an increment. Things are good. So we're looking at this queen right now. And is there something I've missed? I don't think so. So he has instead played, I think, the correct move of taking the knight. But as you can see, I have in sum bagged the pawn. The pawn is now mine. Now, I can continue developing here with a tempo on the pawn, taking control of a long diagonal, undisputed. And that's almost certainly going to be a good idea, even though it would drop this pawn. So whether I really want to do that now, I'm not sure. Let's calculate. If I do this and he does this, the natural follow-up would be this move, attacking his queen. Where would his queen go? There's just so many options. Sometimes that's when it's the hardest to consider. These are all options in that case. So we could also start like this. Our dark squares are weak, but he doesn't have a dark squared diagonal, so bishop. So it really shouldn't matter. We can sort of take our time. We can play a move like this, keeping everything defended and maybe just playing this in the future. I think that makes a lot of sense as well. If we do this and he comes back and attacks our queen, well, our queen has squares to go to. Primarily, it would come here almost certainly. And that would be fine. So I will do that actually. Let's do this for starters. This is still defended. And we're threatening this move with a tempo. But ultimately it looks like b3 is probably a move we will play. Maybe we could do it as queen b3 to put pressure on this pawn, extra pressure. And get the rooks to the center. Okie doke. Now if we do this, that's an idea. Is not necessarily an idea that's going to win the game. But let's play on. So we've got this move right now. If we want it, let's do it because, again, there's really no reason to not play this move. It puts us on a beautiful diagonal. It comes with the tempo against the queen. Let's put him on the clock. He can decide out of all those various options where the queen goes, and then we'll respond accordingly. But this move probably makes sense. It'd be nice to try and restrain this knight. But if we play a move like this, then the only pawn this knight can dangerously take is this one. Because if it takes either of the other pawns, well, they're defended. Okay, so the queen comes down here. Now, he's putting pressure on the pawn. We can sit our bishop right there, and I do like that move a lot. It does give this pawn up though, so why don't we start like this? I think this makes sense. Like I say, it looks like we were going to play this move anyway. Our bishop can maybe come here next. Now, we could have taken the knight straight away, and obviously chose not to, but we've also got a lot of other options here. One thing we can do here is this move, and that keeps our bishop very active, keeps this pinned. And can he attack the bishop though? He can, but that would mean we take, he takes. It might just be easiest, most solid, just to move the queen. Although then he has this fork, which is annoying. It's an annoying fork. Something like this, he comes here. Doesn't really matter. I mean, if he takes, we can take back like that. And then we've got a passed pawn. We could also just, no, we can't do that. Okay, so let's be a little careful. If the queen comes here, then after this, we can sit very pretty. But yeah, we do have to be always careful, and it might be worth trading. I'm not sure I can make that happen anymore. After takes, he takes like this, and we're obviously lost. So I think maybe this or this might have to be played, and after he does this, well, I mean, okay, we come here. And he doesn't have any forks. And if he takes the bishop, well, we take back. We still have the extra pawn going into the endgame. That might just be what we have to do. All right. So which way is best, this or this? Probably inconsequential. We could also do this, like I say, and then if he comes here, we've got this move. Long term, trying to get the queen here. It's an interesting idea. It's a very interesting idea. I like that, actually. Do you have to be aware of tactics? But I do like this idea. It maintains a bit more tension. It doesn't give him an easy plan to win the bishop. And once my bishop sits here, it's not going to be easy for him to get to it. He could maybe exchange sacrifice, but giving away more material is going to be very, very dangerous. I'm going to have a very dangerous passed pawn there, which I'll be able to protect. Okay, so the position's good. Time situation's okay. And the plan's pretty clear. Probably want to play this move relatively soon. We almost definitely want to play this move. We may want to play this move to kick the queen, but the queen's got many options. So it's not too scary for him to be kicked in a little way. So I think moves like this are very sensible. Moves like this are probably imminently sensible. And then if this is played, we can play this. If he takes, we take back. Maybe with the rook. If he recaptures, we take back again. He attacks, we come here defending. And if he attacks again, we come here defending. It may be a draw. It may be a drawn position, and I need to be content with that. Because sometimes I want to push too hard for a win. And sometimes I get sick of grinding, just throw it away somehow. Not going to happen today. We're going to be patient. We're going to watch and see what happens. We're also going to keep calculating and keep sharp, keep thinking. So where else can we go with this bishop? Maybe at this move, maybe a3 does make sense. Although he can take the bishop with check before moving the queen, so I don't think so. I think here we would do this. And then maybe in future we can play this to try and move the queen away from the defense of this pawn, for what that's worth. If he does something like this, well, then I think it would probably be worthwhile to take, ruin his pawn structure further, and just be okay with that. I think taking here, he would take back with a rook. We take here, ruin the pawn structure. If he ever gives a check, we take, he takes, we take, and we win. So if he moves a rook or basically leaves this situation as it is, I've got a very high mind to take. And then basically if we're going to win the endgame, it's going to be the pawn that does it, right? Okay, so he's infiltrating along the 7th rank. We're going to have to be very careful. Very careful. What's he threatening here, if anything? I mean, he's keeping my queen at bay. That's one thing. It's one thing to keep in mind. But I can, if I take here, he doesn't have, a dangerous check. I just simply take back. So after this, I do believe he has to take back like so. I do believe that's the case. I could also maybe start like this. Just attacking this rook. If he defends the rook, that's probably not a path I want to go down, because after takes, maybe he takes with the queen. I come here. It might not be too bad. But let's say takes, he comes here. I come here. But also one thing I've done in the past is give up a strength. And at the moment, maybe my bishop is a strength, even though his knight is scary. So let's just keep on calculating here. What if we just come here? totally restricting his other rook, except that it can come here. But this rook at the moment is restricted. Like, it can't actually use any of these squares. And if it can't use any of these squares, well, then the other rook, even if it comes here, they can never double on this rank. So that should be fine. We could also try this move right now. This move would be interesting. Again, it may be a draw, and we may have to be content with that. We can attack the queen. Maybe first we put pressure on this. I think that's likely to occur though. We attack the queen. If the queen just holds, we come here. All right, time management wise, we do have to be careful. I think the queen does actually a good job here. This prevents his queen from getting closer in, so I'm going to start with this move. I'm just going to start with this move. Again, after this, I can still play this, but then I have to be very careful of the fact that he can check me. But so it might be a reason to actually put the bishop here. He attacks, maybe the bishop can even live here, funnily enough. So possibly I might have to play this to keep an eye on this square with my bishop. So I am very passive here. And maybe again I should have taken, but that's okay. I think this is fine. I do think that's okay. So let's try that. Very passive, but can he do anything about it? We'll see. If we can move the queen away, we might be able to win the rook. That's basically the plan. And we're keeping his queen somewhat restricted. Although if we ever win the rook and he has a queen or a rook here, he can then jump away with a check. And after I take, my queen would be very vulnerable. So I've got to be careful about those tactics at all times. Maybe, after all, maybe moving the king will be a nice idea. Let's say something like this. Maybe I would be well served to move my king. One way or the other. Possibly towards the center. I mean, this is something you can consider, but I think I like the look at this. Yeah, I'm going to move my king towards the center, so there's no check. Now, if he does this, I think I've got everything defended. That's my sense here, is that everything's defended. Although it's all very dangerous, I do have the extra pawn. Like I say, it might well be a draw, but if I start maybe moving these pawns, maybe I can free my position up a little bit and eventually use the extra pawn to win. Like I say, long game, requires patience, requires persistence, nothing comes easy. All right. So, how do we get out of this? How do we unwind this scenario? Maybe we play a move like this, but that drops the pawn. So I think maybe moving this pawn makes a lot of sense, although it drops this pawn. He seems to absolve some of the pressure that he had there by playing that move. Gives us a chance to play this move against his queen. He's not threatening this because we simply take back. There's no check, at least not a scary one. And so, therefore, if we play this, I think this queen just has to move away. Then we can at least bring this. If the queen stays, somewhere like that, we do this, we force him off that line. Then we could even try this tricky move, check. And after he takes, we take that. I'm going to try that. Let's try and get this queen out the way. Now that he's giving us a half chance to do so. So now we do have this check, and after he takes, we take, and we've somewhat freed the position there as far as I can tell. I like that. There's also this move, but it's not threatening mate or anything. We could go for the slower approach, going something like this, but why bother? Let's do this. Check. And try and trade some of these pieces. If he takes rook, we take this rook. And we should be able to unwind from what was a very cramped position. So a couple times we've been let off the hook here in this game, I feel. Like, I don't think he should have moved the knight back. And, okay, so here he's moved. Now we've actually got this check, which could be interesting. He can block it in a variety of ways. But I'm going to start with this because it also leads to more trades, which should benefit us. And if he does something like this, he might find that he loses the entire rook, because that would be a pinned rook and unable to move. All right, so after a move like that, I think we just take this and then continue pushing. This is pinned, so yeah, all right, we'll take. Shit. Shit. And I took my eyes off the prize there for a second, that he was threatening a checkmate. How long was he threatening that checkmate for? And I didn't even register that he's threatening a mate here. And after check, what would I have to do to have stopped the mate? Well, check would be correct. No, check is wrong. Don't tell me I have to, in this position, how do I stop the mate? Maybe bringing the rook back is my only other option. That doesn't work. All right, well, let's have a look at the game, because I think things were going pretty well. I think things went pretty well in general. Except for getting mated in one. That's a blunder. But okay, we started off, developed just fine. Can't really see the evaluation bar there, can you? Let me just move this across. Castle. Things are pretty even. Bishop g5. That's fine. And after this move, I think I made a small inaccuracy here. It actually says white's doing really well. I brought the knight back. It says that was perfectly fine. But I thought here you can just win a pawn. What did I miss? Was it this move, as I had mentioned? Well, this move would have been a good response, for sure. Okay. Very interesting. But anyway, we didn't go down that line. He castled. And here I played takes. He takes. Knight d5, hitting the queen and the bishop. Queen retreats. And I took the bishop. Now I played c4, looking to gain control of d5. And you know, things are fine. Things are still fine. It's not a bad move. And here I was happy with the move knight d2. And the computer maybe doesn't agree with me as much, but it's still a fine move. And once he captures, I capture back. And yes, the position now is very good for me. After this move, I calculate that I can take the pawn. Despite this rook pin idea, it backfires on account of knight takes bishop. So this was all correct calculation by me, which is nice. I'm happy with that. So therefore he has to take the knight. And then here I've got such a good position. Rook to e1 I think was very natural. He develops the knight. Bishop f3, perfectly natural. Says it's not best, but certainly natural. And then b3. And you can see my position's very good. Objectively, it's strong. He attacks the queen. Perhaps I went the wrong way here. I went with this queen b1 idea, which I thought was a way to keep more tension in the position. It's not too bad. But I would imagine probably queen e2 is better. Indeed, queen e2 would have been better. It is more natural. And I have more space here. I kind of voluntarily became cramped in an effort to try and maintain the life of my bishop, which did work. Once he brought his rook in, I played the move queen c1, which was, goes to show the inaccuracy, because I should have just played queen c1 here if I wanted to go to that square. So yeah, queen c1 would have been better here. I don't know why I really chose b1. I wanted to get to this square, but I can do that from c1 too. So yeah, that would have made more sense. But regardless, I got there in the end. And after this move, it says we're in a dead even position. As I was saying, I said probably is a draw anyway. But I brought the bishop back. And now I'm cramped. Even though I have the extra pawn, I am cramped. And the decreased mobility of my pieces actually gives black a slight advantage. He brings his rook across. And here I moved my king, giving him a very large advantage if he plays correctly. But obviously that's not easy to do. He brings his knight across, which is a decent move, not the best one. I wonder what the best move here was, because computer reckons he's got something maybe better than what he played. No, not really. That's about as good. And then I played a3. a3 was actually the decisive mistake. So I thought a3 would allow me to start, getting free in my position. But this queen move and the pressure it applies to the f2 pawn is actually too much to consider. So I needed to do something else here. So let's consider this. How do we can we free this position? Do we go with this checking move immediately? I think that probably would have been better, but except that it doesn't work, obviously. So check just loses the full rook, doesn't solve any of the problems. Perhaps what I needed to do here was a move like this. That's not very good either. Maybe I had to come here. Yeah, it's a tough situation. There's not a lot of good things to do. But after a3 and the queen comes here, there's not really anything. After the check, and he moves the king. Here it says I had one last chance. One last chance to come back. One last chance to come back here. But how? Must be that. Bishop e2, blocking the rook. And here it's still a draw, but very interesting. I think really, the computer says that the decisive mistake was a3. And it was. But in my mind, I'd say in hindsight, the decisive mistake for me was probably queen b1. And perhaps if I had just gone for even a move like this would have probably been fine. Yeah. And then after this, maybe even the exchange sacrifice would work here. I suspect it probably would work. No, it doesn't work, but even without the exchange sacrifice, I think you can even play moves like this. And things are looking fine. If he takes, guess what you do? You take back. And now you're just doing great. Even if he moves, you give your king some spare squares, and you gradually proceed. So a bit of a shame, because I was playing pretty well. But a3 here, realizing that he's so active, a3, this move should have been on my radar, and then realizing, hey, there's not really a good way to defend now. Not in that position, sorry. Where I played it, yeah. Here, there's not really a good way to defend. Blocking with the bishop here, why is it not as good now? That's something I don't quite... Well, I guess he can attack the bishop. No, because that drops the rook, and then I just come this way. Maybe this way he attacks the bishop. Again, I take. So it's a position, one of those positions where he's absolutely winning, but how does he win? This shouldn't work at all. So what's so good here for him? Don't think it's a check, is it? Here even you might have this as a move. So that's not it. What's so good about this position for him? Does he simply play... No, that's not going to work. Does he play this? The idea of coming here. If you take, you get mated. And if you don't take, there's lots of pressure here. But no, that's not what he's looking at. I've got to say, I don't see what the move is. For black, that makes it so strongly in his favor. I mean, yeah, obviously that can't be it. Is it just a simple waiting move? Something like this? It's not bad, but it's also not the move. Maybe this. I don't see it. Perhaps this. I just really struggle to see why this is so good for black. What's the move? I don't see it. Evidently neither did he. Because in the game, after check, he moves. I come here, check. He comes here. I can see now why I'm ruined, because something's going to fall, but I just don't see it here. I do not see it here. Let's get to that moment. I wish it would just show me the freaking analysis. So what would black do here? It's queen e5. Why is this so good? Because he then goes queen e4. Okay, alternatively, I can't move away because the bishop's going to fall. If I do something like... Well, we've already seen, if you do this, he comes here. No, he still just comes in, doesn't he? You can't allow him to come in. So this was the killer idea. Very subtle move, really. I mean, what I missed in the game itself was really queen c5 with this big threat here. I thought that check, he's just going to take, I'm going to take, and then I'm defending everything. I missed that after check, I thought he would take back like this. And again, I'm all fine. Computer says so. But I missed that, although it's true I win a rook in this, after the check, I win a rook, and I have all the material, counts for nothing when you mated. But the more subtle idea, had I seen that and tried to defend it at this point, had I just played this, blocking this off, this, tying the king down to the defensive pieces. Kings are not good defenders in general because they sometimes need to move away. Also, just threatening to come in and mate. And there's just, turns out, no way to stop it. If you do this, he's still coming in. If you do this, he's coming in here. If you do this, well, he's still getting in. Well, you could possibly move. He might even just be able to come in with a check in this case. It's probably still good for him. But, you know, check, it's still mate before too long. And in the meantime, there's just nothing we can do. So we just ended up getting really tied down, very tied down. And I think, again, that all comes back to this queen b1 idea in a position where I didn't need to play queen b1, restricting this rook entirely, completely Zarobian. Would have been better to play this move, improving the bishop, allowing this, but there's nothing wrong with allowing this even. After takes, takes, we have a beautiful passed pawn that we can defend. We've got freedom of activity. His rook is the one that's relatively weak. This would have been, in hindsight, much better. Not to mention here there's a3 hitting the queen. Says the best move here is queen c5. And like we say, rook e4 also would have been possibilities here. So, yeah. Mobility of pieces. I don't think I would repeat this idea again of restricting the queen. Either improving this piece and going down the line we just saw, or playing queen e2 would have been better, or even playing queen c2. But I think of those, I would have preferred this, where I'm at least defended. I think here we would have seen knight d4. I would have come here. He probably would have taken the bishop. I would take back. And again, I'm perfectly free in this position. Really, I have no weaknesses. And I can gradually build and use the fact that I have an extra pawn to claim that I'm never going to lose, even if this advantage never turns into a winning advantage. I should be on the better side of a draw. But because I voluntarily hemmed myself in instead, trying to save this bishop, which is admirable, but perhaps of lesser importance. It should have been a less priority saving this bishop compared to saving the mobility of my pieces as a whole. So I allowed him to have this move. Also, if I wanted to do this move, maybe, like I say, queen c1 probably would have been a better way to do it. At least the rook has somewhere to go here. And now after this move, I think a3 makes lots of sense. Chasing the queen off this diagonal. And all of a sudden, I think we're looking really good. So, but queen b1 in particular was a big mistake. So I think, yeah, in next time round, I'd probably play this, realizing this is pinned, and so this is a safe square for this guy to go. Because if takes, we are just always happy with this. Doesn't really matter how you take. But I think I would take with the queen. I think that's how I would have played it. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you're still watching, keep your eyes peeled because we've got some very special videos coming up and throughout this Canberra Chess Club Championship. They're not going to be like these training videos that I've been doing, although there will be one more tactics training session coming up. Otherwise, there's going to be a whole new approach to these videos, so stay tuned for that. We'll see you soon.